Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And before I get started, we also talk about the viewer's pick of the week at the end of the video, so in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week, and also give this video a thumbs up. It helps the channel, so hopefully you guys could do that. Now let's jump into the comic books. I had a pretty average size haul with 12 books, but there's definitely a lot of big books that came out this week, including a start of a couple of events. But number 12 for me is Local Man issue 7, a book that I really do like a lot, but I feel like has kind of lost track of itself. The plot has kind of slowed down a little bit. I feel like there hasn't been as many big character moments. This issue in particular, we get to see the character just high most of the time, and I was like, all right, that brings for some visuals that are fun, but character-wise, it really just didn't do much, and again, doesn't progress the plot as much either. And even on the art side of things, there's a lot of unique things in this issue because of him being high and like moving different bubbles, but I feel like the facial expressions and just the strength of the art is not as strong as we usually see from Tony Fleecs. It just felt a little bit more rushed and rough. So overall, giving that 2 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is The Flash, issue 3, a book I'm kind of torn on because I love that it's doing something different. I like this kind of horror angle, but I really enjoyed the last run a lot more. I think it was a good balance of doing things different, but also feeling familiar. And I'm just not a huge fan of Mike Deodato's artwork. It's very dark, and every single time I think about this book, it feels a little muddled, and I think it is because of the visuals as well. It makes it a little harder to get into the book. There's no moment in this character-wise that I'm like, wow, I really want to follow Wally's journey, even if some of the horror aspects, and maybe if you really love mythos building, you'll enjoy this. But for me, I'm not the hugest mythos building fan or even Flash franchise fan. I'm more a fan of the family and the characters. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars. I don't know if I'm going to pick up the next issue. This one's a little bit more on the fence for me. Moving on to number 10, which is Miss Marvel, the New Mutant, issue 4, which is the last issue of this event, which I think they're just spinning another miniseries. Well, I guess you wouldn't call it an event, but it's just a plain old miniseries. It has a problem, all the female-driven miniseries at Marvel, where it's cool that we're getting stories from them, but they are not progressing the plot that much. There's just not much of moments you can have in an ongoing book. Like, all right, let's see her interact with Zoe more. Let's see her interact with Nakia. Let's see her go to school. And those moments are lost because you just got to be like, all right, how's she feel about being a mutant? She needs to interact with Kitty Pryde. And luckily we do have Bruno, but I just feel like it just feels very run-of-the-mill type series. And I still don't know if I love her being a mutant, and I don't know if it completely works, but I miss the more slice of life aspects of Miss Marvel, because I think that's really what makes her character so fun. And even if you watch the Marvel's movies, I feel like that's something that was really fun about Kamala's characters, that you could kind of balance the space action with just her hanging out with her family. And that's the thing I really miss about the series that I just don't know if a miniseries can do. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars. Not a bad issue, just kind of forgettable, I guess is the best way to put it. Moving on to number 9. I'm surprised to see this so low because I really liked the first issue, and that's Alan Scott Green Lantern issue 2. I felt like this one was a little more depressing, if I'm being honest. It was a little harder to get through, where we get to see the conversion camp story with Alan, and that's most of the issue. And I really was expecting more of the Red Lantern story. I almost forgot that was a cliffhanger until we got to the end of this issue. I'm like, oh yeah, that was kind of the whole point of issue 1, was we're getting into this Red Lantern story, which really is just kind of hidden in the background of this kind of depressed conversion story with Alan, and just seeing all these queer people around him having not the greatest lives because of the time period. So I just didn't, it wasn't for me in particular. I thought it was a little bit too angsty, but I love the art, and I am going to pick up more issues to see where it goes and see if this Red Lantern story ties in a little bit better, especially because I did like that first issue a lot, and I thought it was a little bit more cheery. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that was number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Steelworks, issue 6. This is the last issue of Steelworks, a book that I had a lot of fun with. You know, it's characters you don't get to see enough of. Them having a little bit of a longer miniseries was really fun. And honestly, the difference between a miniseries like this and a Miss Marvel is that it does progress the story. You get a lot of great character moments between Steel and his family, between the Superman family as well. We're getting to see that Lana and Steel are going to get married. So there's a lot of interesting points. Is the villain that interesting? No. But I do think the character moments really shine here. The art really shines in this book as well to make it a pretty solid miniseries of, again, characters you just don't get to see very often and just fun dynamics overall. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Gang War Luke Cage, issue 1. I was a bit torn on this because I liked Luke's voice. I enjoyed seeing him be like, you know what, I am the mayor, but I'm still a hero. I want to kind of be on the ground and form a team with like Cloak and Dagger and Iron Fist to kind of get to the root of the problems of the city that maybe politics can't do. But then there is a lot of exposition and kind of forced tying into Gang War that I don't think was completely necessary. I think artwork was okay. There's times where it felt a little stiff to me, but overall it gave me enough to want to pick up the next issue, and most likely the whole miniseries, because I do think, you know, Luke's fun, his interactions are fun, and I want to see where it goes and how he is going to affect the gang war in any way. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Titans Beast World, issue 1. This was an interesting issue because I don't know if it convinces me to be like, wow, Titans need to continue to read this book. But it also gave me just enough to be like, maybe I do. It makes me continuously be on the fence with this book because I don't hate Titans, but I also don't love it. That's why I've been continuously torn by it. And this issue in particular, it takes a while to kind of get started, but once you do, you get to see Starro in a different way. You get a narrative with Beast Boy. Is his mind lost forever? You're like, all right, there is the emotional pull. There's the amazing artwork and collaboration there. I mean, Ivan Reyes does such a good job at these event books and these kind of bigger than life books, and he nails it here. And there's enough emotional pull where we get to see Titans be the new Justice League, be the new leaders of DC, and that was super interesting and different from other events. So yeah, I'm in the middle of it. I probably will pick up the next issue, but I also don't think it blows my mind or says, wow, this was worth the wait. So I'm a bit torn. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Spider-Woman issue 1. I was actually kind of surprised to see this lower than Gang War. We'll talk about Gang War, and obviously that's the topic of the video. But this one I was really looking forward to, but it's very similar to that first Spider-Woman series from a couple of years ago, where it tied into Spider-Verse, I believe. And you're like, okay, why is this first issue an event issue? And I believe this, I don't know if it's an ongoing or not. It might be a miniseries Spider-Woman, but I think it's an ongoing. So to start again with an event just doesn't quite work. But I love the Jessica plot. I really like that it has to do with her son, that no one seems to know that he exists. The gang war stuff is the thing I'm just not as interested in. I don't really care about the villain, but I'm sure it will tie into her son's character. I like the interactions between her and Carol. The artwork is really good for this book. But yeah, the gang war stuff actually kind of brings it down, which is surprising, which we will talk more about Gang War as a whole, and I think it's surprising because, as you could tell, it's a bit higher in my top 5. I like Gang War. I just don't know if you need all the tie-ins that we're having. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Amazon Attacks, issue 2. Another event book. This is like the week of every event kind of happening. Wonder Woman a little less so, that it being a big event like a Beast World or Gang War, but there's definitely a lot of threads that are being played off in other series, which, you know, you could kind of call an event. So this one I like just because it's the interaction of characters you normally wouldn't think would interact, like, you know, Wonder Girl and Mary Marvel, and they have fun back and forth. There's some good action in this issue, and I think it ties into the politics of Wonder Woman really well and shows that that Wonder Woman story is bigger than just the one series. It is affecting the whole DC universe, which I think is important, especially important when you want to have a tie-in, where I feel like Gang War maybe is a little shakier. And even, I don't know, Beast World, I haven't read the tie-ins for that, but we'll see if those tie-ins actually feel like, wow, we need this. But this actually feels like we need it. It shows that the world is a bit bigger than you expect. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Green Arrow issue 6. And this is a really interesting issue because Green Arrow was supposed to be a 6-issue miniseries. And this issue really plays it off as, wow, we were supposed to end here, but why not have an interesting cliffhanger? So Green Arrow's found, we get to see a little bit of his past and go through his mind, and he reunites with his family, except now Arsenal is lost. And that's going to be the next half of the issue, or the series, because I believe it's going to be 12 issues it's going to be a maxi series. So I was like, all right, that's kind of fun because it gives you the themes of what Green Arrow is usually about. It gives the themes of what this series in particular was about, if you've been enjoying it. I liked it. Did this issue blow my mind? No, it didn't make me cry. It didn't make me emotional about Green Arrow's past, but I enjoy the character moments for the most part. I enjoy the themes of it, and I love seeing the family together, and I thought the cliffhanger was interesting enough to be like, yeah, I'd pick up 6 more issues of that. And the artwork is great and celebrates a lot of the past of Green Arrow, especially Phil's artwork that, obviously he was a mainstay on Green Arrow and really showcased that blocky look that worked for that book. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is the penultimate issue of Firepower. This was a really solid penultimate issue. Again, did it blow my mind? No, but I don't know if a penultimate issue has to, especially last issue being so gut-wrenching and emotional. It's picking up the pieces of that, of the family reacting to the grandfather/father dying, and we get to see, hey, they're soldiers, they have to deal with that emotional weight all while trying to save the world, and there's some good action there's some good character moments, and honestly, I just think it did everything it needed to for a penultimate issue, which is why it's so high up. The artwork's really solid, especially when it comes to the action, where the end of the issue and the end of the series is exactly what it sold it to be. They're going to defeat the dragon, or they're going to go up against the dragon at least, and we'll see how that leads the family and what the epilogue will end up being. But I liked it. It's exactly what you expect from the series. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1. Guys, can you believe it? We're up to the topic of the video, and it's actually my pick of the week, and that is The Amazing Spider-Man Gang War, issue 1. I really liked this book. We get to see the beginning. I was a little uncertain, because you're like, okay, there's a lot of exposition, there's a lot of just talk between the different families. I don't know if I love this. And then you get straight to the actual idea of what this event's about, and that's Randy getting shot. We get to see Beetle have to make the human decision of, do I love Randy? Do I want power? And then you get even more twists along the way, where we get to see this, what you think is just the girlfriend character, and she ends up being Madame Mask, because obviously you don't know, because she usually wears the mask, and that's the reveal, and she's starting this whole war. And the artwork is so splendid for this book. It's just gritty. I love how the blood was painted on Madame Mask, especially that scene between Beetle and Madame Mask. I thought the artwork really shined through the violence of what's being played out here, and it really sets up for an interesting story, this kind of mob-driven story that fits very well for Spider-Man. These characters are well-known characters for Spider-Man. He is a more grounded hero with villains that would connect to a gang war, and he has a lot of villains that would connect to it. And it brings up so many questions of what's Madame Mask's motives, who's going to win, how's Beetle going to be involved, and you do have the emotional weight of Randy being shot. Is he going to survive? Is he not? And I just thought it was a really, really well done first issue. I hope that the rest of the issues are just as solid and moves the plot as much as this one did, because there's a lot of shocking moments, and I liked it. I thought it was a really good setup to the event, and honestly, yeah, I do think you should pick this one up. I was pleasantly surprised by it, and I'm looking forward to seeing more, and we'll pick up some of the tie-ins and obviously follow the main event. But let me know in the comments below what were your favorite comics of the week. This is Comic Uno, and the viewer's pick of the week was Batman Off-World, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one.